So to review, here's a severe weather threat for Thursday, right? We have a marginal risk right now going from Gulfport, Mississippi, all the way up to Wilmington, North Carolina, most of southern Georgia, central Georgia, parts of southeastern Alabama, small portion of Louisiana, Mississippi here. So not an overall big threat here. And I wanted to show you this first before I moved on to the long-term discussion. A long range or longer discussion, I guess you would say, not long range, longer discussion about the parameters and the Stormnet probabilities with the severe weather through the south and southeast. All right, so this forecast is going to be, this part of the forecast is going to be just for the southeast and deep south. So the severe threat Wednesday and Thursday here. So we get into Wednesday, see this trough out here, and we talked about this in previous discussions. Swinging through maybe some short waves, moving through the flow here, high pressure at the mid levels with pretty strong southerly flow here, moving from southwest and northeast, deep layer shear. All right, we go to 700 millibars, indicates pretty much the same thing. Go to 850, which is closer to the surface, kind of more of a nebulous flow here, but a low level jet really ramping up here off the coast, right? Broad southerly flow, focus generally in this area at the surface, coming right off the Gulf here. All right, we go to a little bit lower, closer to the surface. Still a broad southerly flow going all the way up into the northeast. So that will transport moisture. All right, and if we go to the surface, dew points Wednesday evening really start to warm up here. So you go into Thursday, you see what happens here. The dew point temperatures are in the 60s, just in the western Georgia here. But you see right on the eastern side, the dew point temperatures are still near 70 here. So we take a sounding from this area, and this is in central Georgia. All right. This is in the overnight hours, and so the profile here is not that impressive, but at night, given the steep lapse rates aloft, you see this here? LCL and LFC pretty far apart here. And this is the NAM, North American model. We tornado here possible. You see a little bit curvature here in the photograph. Some contamination here in the SQT, but overall, the only problem is surface 3-kilometer lapse rates is poor. 5 degrees C per kilometer. Normally you want 6 C or above. So let's move this forward a little bit. And if we look back at the map, you see where it's centered, okay? Let's move this forward a little bit here. See how it works out as we move through time a little bit. Well, it says tornado here. The photographs aren't particularly curved here, but a lot of deep layer shear. And all of a sudden we've overcome a cap here. And showing surface-based cape at 3,000 joules per kilogram. Now let's compare this to the rapid refresh model. See what it says. It's taking a little bit of time here, sorry. Totally different scenario here. Interesting. It goes out, let's see, 21 hours. That may be why. Let's go back and see here. Yeah, so let's center this on the southeast here and switch models to the NAM Nest, which is a little bit higher resolution. All right, so here we go. Southeast and deep south. So it gives me a better way to look at this. See, the moisture is sufficient here, but you see the cold front kind of cutting it off to start with. All right, the 70-degree dew points, but your 60s are pushing way up to the north here with maybe some lesser dew points in this area. Okay, let's see, the deep layer southerly flow is really bringing the moisture up here. And this is into Wednesday afternoon and evening, progresses further north. And as we get into Thursday afternoon or morning, that pushes to the south and east. So the severe weather threat, Wednesday and the Thursday, this is more of an overnight event, right? So we're going to focus on the overnight event for the southeast here. We don't have as many parameter space to look at, so let's look at the 700 millibar flow here. We don't even have that. surface. Surface base Cape, overnight hours in the central Georgia, into the southeast, especially back here is pretty high, right? Main layer Cape, the highest out of the west. All right, these southerly flow, we're way past, well, went to Thursday. Sorry here, guys. Thursday morning, it kind of gets cut off here. Most unstable Cape, plenty of most unstable Cape shows the amount of the highest amount within a column. So not particularly impressive here either. And you can see Supercell Composite to start with until Tuesday night is highest back here for supercells in the threat area in Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, and back into Texas. Highest moisture, instability, and kinematics, which is wind energy moving through. And then we get into Wednesday evening. You see how the highest values are right in here. So that's where our significant severe weather is for Wednesday, right? Move further through time into Thursday morning, into the afternoon hours. Maybe get some refire and convection on the southern edge of this. So significant tornado parameter is not 0 here. So anywhere in this line, especially back here, my goodness, look at these values, 4, 5, 6, 7. Move through time with this into Thursday, Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Kind of moves out a little bit, then refires here on the southern edge of this. So let's take a sounding here again. Didn't mean to do that. All right, from my area, central Georgia, see what we get. Storm relative helicity is pretty strong here. So the only limiting factor here is surface-based Cape is pretty low. I think we looked at this parameter earlier, and this is pretty far out. So I don't know, the parameter space is definitely there for severe weather, all in the south and deep south, right? And if we look at updraft helicity swaths accompanying this, you see where the greens and yellows are. That's the greatest updraft helicity on the map. This is 6 hours. You see storm relative helicity is maximized here. It looks like maybe this is where the surface flow, surface boundary is coming through. So let's go back with this. Let's go back to the surface here. All right, 27 overnight hours on Wednesday to Thursday. And we could have storms ongoing here all the way through into Thursday afternoon. Let's look at the simulated reflectivity with this. This is a NAM 3 kilometer, right? Shows a pretty intense convection moving in the overnight hours. Let's go back a little bit with this. Moving to the south and east here. And as what usually happens, it kind of fizzles out here in central Georgia with the forcing and kinematics kind of waning with time here. So I don't know. We'll have to see how this plays out. But that's a general overview. I know I talked about it a lot, but take it for what it is. My general take on this is the next couple of days will probably be the worst, right? And we know that based on what the SBC is saying. And we get into Wednesday night into Thursday morning, more uncertain this far out. So stay tuned to my channel for further updates as I get them and post them. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Appreciate y'all watching. Have a great day. God bless y'all. So this is the Stormnet probabilities for severe weather in the south, in southeast and deep south. Excuse me. So I use Stormnet a lot now because it seems to be reliable and gives a good graphical depiction of severe probabilities. I think it's pretty accurate. So we're starting this off Wednesday, May 6th at 5 a.m. Okay, not a lot going on tornado probability wise. And tornado probabilities through the day aren't that high. Then we get a real rapid increase back to the west here, 6 to 7 p.m., like in the afternoon hours, and parts of southwestern Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, okay? Roughly 10 to 25%, okay? And tornado risk of any strength. So it doesn't delineate strength here. So let's go through with this. Wanes. And then we get a resurgence here in the overnight hours, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Well, the highest probabilities here are centered in Alabama, south of Montgomery, all the way eastward towards Macon, Georgia. You see the bullseye here, all right? So moving through with this, another 12-hour period, 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. The probabilities are less, although not zero here, okay? Moves further to the south and east. Probabilities are highest centered on the Alabama-Georgia border here, around Dothan, Alabama, Albany, Georgia, Columbus, and that threat moves out after that. So going back, let's look at the wind risk here. Greater than 58 miles per hour. Let's go through into Wednesday morning. That wind threat is really not that impressive up to this point. Maybe ramping up here in parts of the mid-Atlantic, North Carolina, South Carolina here, and back to the west. And this is, I think, where it's going to start ramping up here. Right, you get to the overnight hours, just like with a tornado threat, you have a quite large area here with a bullseye out into parts of Alabama, Mississippi, and back towards Louisiana. Another bullseye center near Augusta, Georgia. This moves through. This is a 12-hour period, right? So 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday. See how it's oriented this way. And then we have another bullseye highlighted here as well into North Carolina. So that's it for the wind probabilities. Let's look at the hail probabilities here. All right, this is starting 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow. So we have the highest probabilities for 1-inch hail, greater than 1 inch, right? Up in parts of maybe Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, North Georgia, and back to the west here, although the probabilities aren't that high. You can see the hail probabilities are pretty high up here in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and back towards Louisiana. Okay, get my states mixed up here sometimes. Sorry about that. The hail risk in the evening hours, Saturday night, not that great. And then we have a larger hail risk back to the west here, which isn't unusual, and way back into Texas here in the overnight hours on Wednesday, the 12-hour period here. That kind of hangs out here out west in the Texas. So this is 2 a.m. to 2 p.m., 12-hour period. And then the threat moves up into North Carolina, which is interesting. Bullseye right there. Line of storms maybe moving through there. And then that's it for that. So those are the three different parameters that the Stormnet is showing. We'll get more clarity and get down to the hourly timing probably tomorrow. So I hope y'all got something out of this stuff. I appreciate y'all watching. Have a good day. God bless y'all.